Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Ask me almost anything. Today's big question, how do I get the audience to care about my characters? I'll be talking about that here live, but also answering another question about characters, plus one about plot hole anxiety, and I am open to anyone who wants to ask a question here live while I am here. I am here Monday through Friday, most days, at 3 p.m. Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time, not just Standard Time. I am here to answer questions and to work on a pilot script. And also, if you want to answer a question and you are not able to do it live, don't panic. You can do it here on writingforscreens.com, my website, where there are contact buttons all over the darn place, and you can just push one and it will send you a form to contact me with a message. If you don't want to do that, that's okay, because right here in the comments, you can ask me anything. It will get to me as a message, and I will either answer it there or answer it here, depending on it and me and other mysterious variables. So let us get to our first question, our big question of the day, which was originally asked by Carlos. Carlos said, how do you make the audience care about the characters? And that is a superb question, because it seems like, well, of course, they care about the characters. They're characters. We care. We're watching the show. But the fact is, hello, Wolf Powers. Fact is, there are a couple of things you can do to really make this a craft issue. There's lots of levels to this. Part of it is just a gift of empathy for characters or of communication, but a lot of it is, in fact, I believe the simplest way to get anyone to care about your characters is to ask, what do they want? They being the character, not the audience. What does the character want? Once you start to think about a character having a very strong desire, something that we understand they want in the story, you would be amazed how much we care. What's amazing about this is that it does not matter if the thing that they want is something that we want or we think they should want. We can care if a person is, like Hannibal Lecter is a serial killer and he wants to get out of the mental hospital. And we get into it. We're like, I wonder if he's going to do it. Macbeth wants to take the throne at all costs. We care. It does not matter what the character wants. There is something weird about storytelling that if you tell the audience that this character has this desire and there's something that they want and it's specific and the audience can understand it, they'll sort of get into it, whatever it is. So truthfully, the biggest thing that I know to get people to care about the characters is to really think about what they want and to make it clear and specific. I've done a lot of stuff about this in the video. Wait a second, let me see if I can find my little logo there. I believe Character Arcs has some of it, and Dramatic Action, but certainly the 6 questions, the 6 essential questions. The second question, after who's it about, who's the character, is what do they want? I cannot stress this enough. If you start to think about your favorite stories, your favorite movies, your favorite shows, the characters very often want something that you don't care about. They want a fancy bottle of wine, or they want they want to commit a crime, and yet we care. I believe it is ingrained into humanity that there's something about storytelling, about this wanting things, that makes stories happen. Anyway, that's step 1, I would say. Know what they want. There's an extra level to that, though, because that's a fairly kind of cold and calculated trick, frankly, to screenwriting or any kind of writing, is this, what does the character want? But then there's another level, which is much, I think, is more important and personal, which is, why do you care? Although we often will tell the story of a character who has some loathsome want, or a want that is going to be punished with a tragic end, still, there is a sense that we understand, like Hannibal Lecter, we care because he's smarter than the people who are holding him. He's got an ambitious and he's got a zest for life, and so there are qualities about him that make us care about him, even though he wants something terrible. And so I would emphasize again, what is it in the story that you can care about? It does not have to be morally good. It does not have to be shared, like a shared interest in baseball or something, but it does have to be something that you can recognize in the character. You can recognize in yourself a human connection to their need. Having a character want something, they want love, they want freedom in a larger sense. Hannibal Lecter wants freedom. And as much as we might think he probably shouldn't have it, we can understand that feeling. We can feel it ourselves. So one of the things that I think that is important about characters is find in them those qualities that you can connect with, even if it is something that you do not believe is something that you want to have happen, or even if it's something that in the real world you don't like. I suspect that Stephen King spends a lot of time thinking up creatures and characters who want things that are just not acceptable in any way. But you can find in yourself the feeling of hunger or anger or lust or ambition for power. The basic emotions inside them, you can care about that, even if you know that it's going to come to a tragic end. Thinking about stories I like, I hated Harry, but I watched and read all of the Harry Potter series. I kind of like Harry, but I understand he's going through a lot. He's going to grow and change. Anyway, I think that having something that you care about, giving them something that you believe in, is a nice way to do it. The other thing is, spend some time thinking, what is it like for them? When you are creating a character, spend time, all the time, go back and forth between your analytical, structural mode of, I need this plot to go this way, and think, what is it like to be trapped in that garbage chute? What is it like to be on that desert alone? What is it like to be on the top of the train trying to get across the country? Whatever it is, think about what it's like for them. Try and put yourself in their shoes. You do not have to live there for real. You do not have to stand up for it in a public sense. You just need to spend a little private time in their position in order to feel it as you write it. And then you're constantly, but frankly, switching back and forth between them. It's a weird position to be. It's not normal. Writing is not a normal thing to do. It's not a human experience that everyone can or should have. Writing is a bizarre experiment in dreaming and building at the same time, allowing yourself to connect to all sorts of things that are not real, but making them real in your feelings and in your understanding. Maria Espino's here. Hello, I'm glad you could catch me too. We are talking about characters. We are talking about how you make the audience care about them. I'm going to run through these all again, but right now, the other thing that is like one of my go-to tricks about characters, and I do think of it as a trick, it's a mechanical device that can be used to great truthful effect, which is give them more than one side, one interest, one feeling. Everybody on Earth has more than one thing that that they care about, that they are doing. You can be a dentist and a passionate baseball fan. You can be a detective and a gourmet chef. Whatever it is, we all have complex sides to us. We have things we like, we have things we are afraid of, and by just giving them more than one, you are going to make them innately interesting to us. The people become much more interesting when it's like, it's frankly an old trick of the detective movies and detective novels back in the Agatha Christie days. Anything you can do to give them a specific connection to life. This one, he loves his wine, he loves his tea, he likes to go skiing, whatever it is, by giving them something and not just laying it in like a checklist. It's not like what's their fear, what's their hope, what's their rose, what's their thorn. It doesn't do you any good to just have a list of things that you've thought of. They have to be part of the story. And that's the other thing that makes you care about a character, is that they have a story. Even the smallest character can have a story. I was thinking about, there's some spoilers coming up. There's going to be some spoilers for Pretty Woman, and there's some spoilers for the Kaminsky Method. Just if you don't want that, I will go like this when the spoilers are done, so you'll know if you want to just put me on mute because of spoilers. In Pretty Woman, there's a character, the doorman at the hotel, and he's got like 5 scenes. He's not a deep character, but he is at first the forbidding guard. He is the man who is keeping her out because he disapproves of her profession. And then slowly but surely, he follows a story arc of coming to sympathize for her and recognize that despite her profession, she is a good person. And in fact, she is an underdog and he can root for her. And so then he switches to helping her and being thrilled for her progress. And it's just like little bits. It's not a lot, but this character who has a simple plot function of a mentor, essentially. But he has a story. He has a series of changes that he goes through because he is touched and makes a human connection. And he gives us a way to root for her. So that's a small character, a tiny character, not even a character. I mean, we don't know anything about this guy. Even smaller, in the Netflix series, The Kaminsky Method, there is a waiter at Musso and Frank's, the restaurant that the main characters go to a lot. He's this old guy, and it's comical because he's so old that he shuffles when he brings the drinks, and there's sort of he begins just as a gag. These waiters are so old that you are afraid they're not going to be able to carry the drinks. As this thing goes on, he actually develops a character through just a couple of small actions. He develops a story because at a certain point, one of the main character dies, and this waiter brings that character's regular drink as a tribute to him after his death. And it's weirdly moving. This weird character, this comical gag, becomes a character with a story because he engages with the main character's grief and shows that he has feelings too, and he takes an action. That's it. When there's a story, is characters taking action. And as I said, that shows more than one side, because at first these people have a certain use. They're a joke, they're a problem for the main character, and then they take an action and they change. And then there's a final beat with this waiter character. He's only in like 6 scenes in the whole series, but each time he actually develops a little. After a couple of gags, he develops some heart. And by the end, he's rooting for the hero at the. I won't spoil the end, but it's great. And this is not even, he doesn't have a name. He doesn't, I don't even think he ever has a line. But he has a story and he has a character. And we care. That's the amazing thing, is that by giving every character an action which shows a change and reveals their heart, you make the audience care. Never fails. In the sense of how that how to do that in a mechanical sense, one really great trick is when I say they have something they want, make it urgent, make it important. If what they want is important to them, it doesn't have to be important in a grand sense. Another spoiler, I don't even know if this counts as a spoiler. In the movie Up, I believe the kid essentially explains that what he wants is to spend a little time with his dad or a father figure, buying some ice cream and watching the cars go by. That's it. I mean, there could be nothing smaller than that goal, but it's very, very important because we recognize that what it symbolizes is a sense of connection to the father figure and to it's very, very emotionally important, although there is nobody else in the world would care. But it's urgent to this character, and there are serious obstacles. That's the other thing that makes us care about a character, is if they have a goal that is important to them, and they have a problem which is making it difficult to get. When the goal is important and the obstacle is serious, then they have to really do something to get that, and that makes us care. Maria, I see your questions, and I will get to them at the end of the prepared questions. So the other, and this is just it's a mechanical way that you can use to get your characters into the hearts of the audience, is give them an unexpected twist or reveal. Doesn't have to be at the end, but all of those characters I mentioned to you, they start out introduced as one thing, and then there is a change. There is a twist or a reveal. They reveal something unexpected about themselves. And in doing that, we care. We get affection for them. We get impressed. We get amused. We get scared. Something. We are going to care more because there was an unexpected action, an unexpected reveal. So that is, those are my quick, how to make a character that you care about. And I urge you to really take number 2 seriously, which is you should care. Find a way to care, to feel, to imagine yourself in their shoes, and to really think about what it feels like to be them. Give them something they want, and think about what is it like for them. Give them a story in which we find out that they have more than one side. And then make sure that their story has a serious goal with serious obstacles. And ideally, give them some unexpected revelation, some unexpected move. Okay, that's how you make an audience care about a character. And I cannot emphasize enough how much sincerity, your actual emotional investment, matters. Don't just stand at arm's length and create characters as devices. They're people. That's why we care, because they're people. And we understand their humanness in ourselves. So that is that. How do you create characters? Was a related question from Jose Rodriguez. He asked, what is your approach to creating characters? It seems to me you do it from the outside in, which is interesting, considering that I have been talking a lot in a very mechanical way. But in fact, how do you create a character different from you? How do you feel them? That's really the big question. I use those mechanical outside-in devices to get to a real empathy. I believe that you don't go from outside in, you don't go from inside out. You constantly are going back and forth between inside and outside. All of writing, I believe, is a back and forth process between different things, between theme and gimmicks, between dialogue and action, between inside and outside. And what you're doing is you're trying to say, okay, mechanically, I need this character to do this thing. Every character has some function in the story. Or if they're not functioning in the story, they have some reason that they are in the movie or the show. But when you give them that mechanical existence, they also have to be a human being. And that is inside. That is what is about them that we share. Or if you don't share, you empathize with. You don't have to be like all of them. I'm hardly like anything. I just sit here all day. But I do feel for other people. I can care. Do you care about characters when you watch a story? When you watch a show, think about why you care about them. What was it? I think you'll almost always find that there's an inside and an outside. There's always something cool or interesting or revealing that they did or said, but there's also some basic emotional dynamic that you can relate to. When people say relatable, in the business, people say relatable to mean popular. Relatable means this is something that will go over well with a large demographic. That's not what really relatable means. Relatable means I can feel that. And we can feel a lot. And that's why we go to stories. We don't go to stories to see somebody be average and ordinary and just like us. We go to stories to see people be things that we may never get to be or fear that we might ever be. And that is where character can go crazy. You can let yourself feel things that you would not ordinarily get to feel. That's a pretty cool thing. So that's my approach to characters, is constantly going back and forth between the inside and the outside. One more before we get to Maria's questions. This is from, I gave it away, spoiler. 234 Pika Pika asked, how do you deal with plot hole anxiety, the fear that your ideas could have some holes? I find it stifling, and I'm too often going to the logical, well-trodden, but boring plot. This is cool. I had never given it a name, but of course we're all filled with anxiety that we have made a terrible mistake, that our dialogue is clunky, or that our characters are shallow, or that our plot has holes. The first thing you have to do is recognize that anything that you can call something anxiety is at a level beyond reasonable. You don't have to worry that much. The main thing you have to do is say, it's like fear of flying. Yes, flying is somewhat dangerous. Flying is actually flying in an airplane, by the way. I don't mean physically leaping up into the air or any other form of flying. I mean, fear of flying in an airplane is a common fear. The truth is, driving in a car is far more dangerous, but we don't fear it. Don't know why. I guess it's seems like more unusual. But the main thing that you have to do when you are dealing with a fear is A, recognize the rational proportionality of it. In other words, what if you had a plot hole? It's not the end of the world. I mean, if you have a plot hole, the odds are you'll catch it. And if you don't, someone else will. And it won't be too late, because there is no too late, but certainly you should try and give your work to other people before you send it out to some professional judgment, and they'll catch it. So if there is a plot hole, you'll fix it, or you'll try. The other thing is, honestly, plot holes show up all the time. The internet loves catching them, but it doesn't matter. Most of the time, we just go with it. I was watching a movie. It's called The Package. It's a 80s, early 90s thriller about a presidential assassin kind of thing. And so it comes to the climax, and in the climax, there's a assassin perched in a sniper's nest over an intersection in Chicago, and a parade with foreign dignitaries is going to be driving past, and they are going to shoot the Russian president and kill him. And our hero has to stop him. He has to find the assassin in the nest and stop him before he pulls the trigger. Now, they've spent a lot of time showing how heavy the security is. There's Secret Service everywhere. So, in fact, you don't have to find the assassin to stop the assassination. You just have to alert the Secret Service and say, there's an assassin here. Or even if that doesn't work, our hero is a cop, he's got a gun. Just shoot one shot in the air at that intersection. I guarantee you the entire national security team is going to come down and block off that intersection, and nobody's driving through it. So it was a plot hole. Doesn't matter. It's a fun movie. It's not great. Got some good scenes. The main thing is plot holes abound. They are all over the place. Lots of things get you past them. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Do not have plot hole anxiety. It is better to have some fun than to, out of fear, stick to a safe plot. Have fun. We will go with it. And the other simple solution to plot hole anxiety, check. Go through your plot a bunch of times. Ask a friend. Tell the story to a friend who you trust to be intelligent and not critical, and say, I just want to walk you through this plot. Tell me if you see any holes. Cool. Or I hope you're writing an outline. If you are not writing an outline, that will help a lot. Make an outline. I did a whole video on how to make an outline. I urge you to watch it because it solves a lot of problems. You can see your plot like a map. So that is that for that. I'm going to ask you to forgive me for a second. I need to text the plumber that it is okay that he is running a little late. All right. So now let's get to, Maria's asked a couple of questions. First of all, cool. Writing a Star Wars fan film to write something I love and someone else's work I can adapt and add to. I'm not sure that I ever gave that advice, because the one thing I do want to say about that is recognize that by doing that, you are limiting your ability to show it to anyone or have any professional advancement with it, because you don't own the rights. So just as a general thing for anyone out there who is adapting or working in someone else's existing intellectual property, books, movies, video games, doesn't matter what it is, you have no right legally to use their characters, which means it will forever be fan fiction, which as an experiment, as a practice, as a way of working through your art, that's great. That reminds me of French art students back in the 19th century at the height of classical artistry there, where everyone basically learned the same techniques. They learned it by going through the same steps. One of those steps was copying great art. Cool. You learn a lot by doing that. So Maria also has an Excel template to think about how my characters live their lives. If that works for you, great. Whatever form you can use to imagine in. Just be sure always to try to relate it to the story. Try and find those things that you can use in the story, although sometimes you just imagine stuff and it's yours to keep because it will never actually show up on the screen, but that's okay. Can you talk about subtext, the characters, and how that can drive the dialogue for those characters? Absolutely. That actually folds in well with what we were talking about before, about what subtext is, first of all. Subtext, technically speaking, is an underlying meaning to dialogue. In other words, people will be talking about something without actually referring to it. I am actually working on a video about this, but I will give a little teaser here, is the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is just dense with subtext. People are almost always they talk about things without actually saying them. They often say the opposite of something, or anyway, I highly recommend the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's from the late 1960s, but it is just a masterpiece of character, dialogue, plotting, and especially subtext. The finale, the last scene of that movie, is one of the most heartbreaking, genius examples of subtext you will ever see, in that the characters have something that they are facing that they will not admit. So they talk around it, and it's just beautiful. But every other scene, frankly, building up to it, it's amazing how much subtext there is there. So that's what subtext actually is. But you're also talking about how subtext in the characters sort of comes to that thing, a lot of the things I was just talking about before, in that they have something they want. They have a story, and that is underneath what they may be urgently talking about in the moment. And so there is a subtext to a lot of what they'll say. Like, somebody might come in and say, like, they want to talk about the quality of the pizza at the pizza place down the street. What they're really saying is, I want to make a connection to you. There is always a subtext driving every bit of dialogue. Some dialogue, it's not that complex. Some of it, it's so far off that it actually becomes sort of a stunt, which is cool. This is when people talk about real subtext. When someone is talking about something that is so far removed from the thing they're actually trying to get to that it becomes entertaining. So that's what subtext is. As I said, I am hoping to do a whole video on that. There is also, just while we're here, a masterpiece of subtext dialogue is a movie called The Manchurian Candidate, the original, with Frank Sinatra and Lawrence Harvey. And there is a scene, I think in the middle, where Frank Sinatra, who has PTSD, he's a soldier with PTSD and is dealing with all sorts of things. He's having an attack, and he's on a train. So he goes out of the train to the space between the cars where he can get a little fresh air and get away from everyone's eyes. And he's trying to deal with his panic attack. Janet Leigh has seen this, so she comes out to talk to him. And there is a masterpiece scene of subtext there where what she is basically saying is, are you okay? I'm trying to reach out to you. And he's trying to say, I'm having a panic attack. I like you too, but I can't handle this. It's magnificent. It's funny. And the train scene in The Manchurian Candidate, the original, Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, Janet Leigh. Anyway, so I would advise Butch Cassidy, Manchurian Candidate. There's tons of good subtext out there. But that is where subtext and character work together, because subtext is when in order to write subtext, you need to understand what the character wants and what they mean, and then you put a layer of guardedness or cleverness over it. So you know, and you are communicating the character, but you are not doing it by having them say the thing they mean. One more question here. How do you avoid creating similar characters when we write series with plenty of characters in it? Very good question. Partly, I would advise making an overview document. In my I did a video which is called How to Organize a Project, I believe. Anyway, one of the things I talk about there is creating a document that's the outline, and then we'll call one called Overview, which you could call Bible, or just, it's where the overall vision and coordination of the project as a whole, where you write that down. So I would write a list of characters. And then when you have this list and you keep it short, just have the name of the character and one or two central things about them. The thing they want the most, the main thing that they do in the story. And then that way you can sort of look at it and say, oh, that one and that one, they're very, very similar. That's the only way that if it's hard to keep track. So in a series, they have what they call a Bible, which is a document which tracks what's been in the show up to now so that everyone can remember it. Because remember, in a series, you're working with a lot of writers. Very rarely is a series written by one person. The one person may create the story, may create the characters initially, but it's going to be usually written by a group of people, coordinated by a head writer, showrunner. So the first thing you do is look at your characters and just check for similarities. Are they physically similar? Do they have similar mannerisms? If so, change one. Just that simple. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that they're not repeating an action. Like if one is sort of a bullying character, just make sure there isn't another one of those, unless they're like a team. And if so, you have to figure out how to differentiate them. Is one the leader and one the follower? Is one the smart one and one the dumb one? What is it about one goading the other? Whatever it is, you have to think about the central action of that character. What do they want? What is their way of getting things? So that's the main thing I would say about characters, because you can have a lot of characters who are similar, like in a war movie, they're all soldiers, pretty much all soldiers, but they're all very distinctly different because they have different ways of speaking, different things that they think are important. If you look at something like Saving Private Ryan, there's a handful of soldiers, they're all distinctly different. And the way that they are different is because they want different things, they care about different things, and they have different ways of expressing themselves, different methods of operating. So I would make an overview document, a Bible, a whatever you want to call it, that lists all of your characters so that you can see what they're like and compare in your mind. And hello to Matthew. And I believe with that, we've run a good 40 minutes. And I am going to say thank you so much. Unless there is another question, I'm going to say see ya. I'm actually not going to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, for those of you who care, it's Tuesday, July 20th. Wednesday, July 21st, I will be dropping a new video, a little lesson about brainstorming. And then I'll be back on Thursday, the 22nd, for the next episode. I believe it's 26, 27 of step-by-step screenwriting. We'll be working on the pilot. Okay, guys, cool. Great to see you all. Thank you for your questions.